Welcome, welcome, welcome.
What is going on, everybody?
It's me.
Hello, this is Big Sexy Digital Nomad.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's
Got a little Jackie Moon Love Me Sexy coming your way today.
swamp sweaty.
You know, when those sexy ass vibes, they get down and low and talking about all the good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Across from me, that's Mr. Joe Beth over there, the almost psychic.
Yeah. Joining Big Sexy in the house. So what's new with
Good
you, man?
morning. Hello, folks. I say good morning because it's morning where I am. So it's like, good morning, everybody. Although you might be catching this in the afternoon, in the evening. So whenever you're listening to us, I hope it is good. But things are well. Things are all right. This is going to be a very interesting episode because it's extra early for me, and I'm not a morning person. As you all will find out on this journey, anytime we got to record early, I'm going to be sounding like, yeah.
I got about a 3-hour advantage just in the time zone for you. So I have been up for, what time did I get up today? 7-ish, which is actually normally a later start for me. So by the time that we've recorded this, I'm up 4 hours. So
Yeah, that's gross.
it's
By the
it's
time we recorded this, I've been up for 40 minutes.
yeah. Well, I love one of my favorite things about my many trips to Vegas is the virtual time machine that I get into, because a lot of time I feverishly fight for and search for direct flights because I don't want to waste time changing planes. And it's just you're leaving too much to chance and other people's stuff. But I love when I get those direct flights and I can hop on a flight that is taking off around 10 a.m. local time. Sure, I'm in the air for 5 hours, but when I'm landing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't feel like it. You're there, you still have the rest of the day. You go, you get
Right.
checked in, time to fuck around. I'm the kind of guy that when I'm traveling in general, um, I like to steal extra days by leaving early when I'm going to my destination and then leaving as late as possible, to get as much of a full day as I can. Like I'll often take my return flights are oftentimes like a 4:55 p.m. Vegas time. With the time change and everything, I end up getting in at like 1 a.m. the next day, but I don't really give a fuck. I sleep on the plane most of the time, and I got myself an extra day there in Vegas.
Right.
So life is
Yeah,
good.
we tend to do kind of pretty much the opposite. We try to leave wherever we are when we're coming back home to Vegas as late as possible, so that we can land in Vegas, hop in the car, drive home, and go straight to fucking bed. Call it good. 'Cause we're also the type of folks that clean the apartment before we leave. So we come home. We try to come home to a nice looking apartment as opposed to a messy one. And the madness of packing. So we when we get back, we're like, "Oh, good, we're settled in. Then the mess is just gonna be the luggage that we throw everywhere, and then we crawl into bed, we wake up, and then we take care of all the unpacking and the luggage and looking for souvenirs and whatnot. And then of course when we leave, it's just about finding the cheapest flight we can find, no matter what time that is. We make arrangements to do whatever. But we also are very much a one stop shop. One yeah, I don't want to. I'm not big on bouncing back from one plane to another, unless we absolutely have to. Unless it happens to just be the cheapest flight, and the next flight and price wise is crazy, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
those straight would be jumping through them. I'm not spending it. I'll save the $80 and I'll wait a couple hours in another airport. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, as long as the thing that really bothers me, or where I get to be, I'm looking very much at the time of that layover. And a lot of people look at a large layover 3-4 hours and they're like, ooh, I don't want to be sitting around and waiting. I don't want the 1 hour layover because I don't trust the first plane, because that's
That part.
generally relying upon a plane before it to get where I am. than for me to board it and then get out on time. Especially recently, like I've had a tremendous deal of luck because I have not had any major issues. I've had delays, I've had this, that, and the other, but nothing that's caused flights to get canceled. But I've heard so many stories because flights get shifted, and I have flights get shifted all the time, especially when I book stuff well in advance. And it doesn't matter, American or Southwest. Those are the two airlines that I fly the most, depending on where I'm going, how far I'm going. If I've booked something more than 4 or 5 months out at this point in time, the probability that that time changes, even if it's not like a drastic difference, is it's pretty close to certain that there will be some sort of change in a flight. So, you get something that changes on that first flight and you've only got like a 45-minute connection. Or one time I was flying into Dallas, which is I don't remember which of the two airports, but it has this sky loop thing. So somebody
Hmm.
listening might know which one I'm talking about.
If you know
Uh,
which airport where they're talking about calling.
yeah. And there's a thing on the website to actually call in. It's not live, but you'll be able to leave us some crazy voice message. So feel free to leave us whatever sort of shit you want right there. But I swear I had like 45 minutes. My flight and everything was on time, but I went from one gate to a gate that was like in a section that were probably as far from each other as possible. So it was kind of a mad dash to get from where I was landing to where I was going. So having a little bit of a buffer in there, if you can plan it out that way. And I know sometimes, depending on where you're going, where you're coming from, the options can be very limited. But um, I don't want to miss shit. So I definitely don't want to miss a flight or
Yeah.
a connection or
And I'm
anything like that.
I'm outside my running days.
Yeah.
So running from one flight to another is that's just not a thing anymore. Um so yeah, if we have to do a layover, I find the best buffer as possible because again, you're right, I don't trust the plane I'm on not to be late. Um and then airports are too huge.
Yeah.
And they determine like it's the same airplane. How come the gate isn't like right across the way? Like what why
Well, it's the
why
same
is this
airplane for you. Let's say that
yeah,
so you had a connection on your last flight, correct? Where did you
yeah.
connect?
We connected in Houston.
Okay, so
So
you
we
went
flew in from
from,
Miami to Houston, and then Houston to Vegas.
so you've got, well, the thing with your Houston to Vegas flight is that it's not just a connection to your Miami plane. You got people that are just getting on in Houston. You got people that are flying in from who the fuck else knows
Oh, well, what
that,
I mean is the same fucking airline. It's
yeah.
still Southwest.
Oh, yeah.
And we know all these planes hub in generally the same area. At least they should.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's where you run into the problem is that either there's overflow, or if you're not flying into a hub, because yeah, normally if you fly into a hub, like Southwest it has a hub in Baltimore. So there's like the entire A concourse in at BWI is Southwest.
Right.
And and I think the entire, if not the entire, the vast majority of the B concourse is also Southwest. C and D are where you get into anything else and international stuff and whatnot. But you know,
Yeah. But all that to say, just fights are stupid. But a necessary evil. Actually, sometimes not bad. Sometimes I enjoy being in the air and it's the only place really nowadays I get to read a book. I get to thumb through my whatever novels interesting me. I get to listen to my podcast that I got to remember to download before I get on the plane. Uh, Otherwise, it's just all Prince music.
yeah.
Uh, but it's funny. Sometimes I will mark the time. But I'll say, "Oh, I guess today is going to be a chronological Prince day," and I
Mhm.
start with the very first album, and I listen all the way through. It's always fun to see how far into the catalog I can get before we land. Uh, that's a fun game to play. I wonder what year I'll make it to by the time we touch down.
Yes, I have a whole bunch of different modes. that I could potentially be in. Some of them are dictated by the time of the day, depending on my destination, things like that. Like I don't care. Like if it's a 10 a.m. flight, I, if the mood is right, if the people with I'm with that I'm with, if I'm with people or such, I will do whatever I can to fall asleep on that flight, even though it's 10 a.m. and just make sure that I am as awake and energized as I can be when I get to my destination. Especially like if it's that cross country flight where I'm time traveling to Vegas, I want to be getting up and hopping ready to go. I am very much trying to not be falling asleep at 10 p.m. Vegas time because of the time change. And,
Right.
so anything I can do to kind of jackknife that time change and adjust to the time difference, I'm going to do it.
Do you
Um,
suffer for it when you get home?
oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. But that's all right. It don't matter at that point. It's everything's in the past. And especially a lot of my recent trips have been for I'll just say learning experiences. They've been either magic conventions, or I did a master class in June with Jeff McBride and his crew. So it's not, those aren't the types of settings where, if I'm just going out to party and hang out, I could plan in an off day, or I can plan in hey, I'm going to, I'm going to come out here Friday or Thursday or whatever it is. I'm going to hit it hard that first night. I'm going to order room service in the morning. I'm going to lounge around. I'm going to take an afternoon nap. And then boom, when it's nighttime, I'm going to go hit it hard again. Well, if I'm out there for, a convention there, or some other sort of learning type of experience, which again, that's taken up about 50% of my trips out there recently. I've
Right.
got schedules. I've got things that if I'm not there at that time and I'm taking my afternoon nap, I'm missing out. So, you kind of you gotta hack it and hack your own body the best way that you can, which is, the older you get, the tougher it
The
gets.
hard,
That's
you got
that's
that
for
right.
sure.
And because I'm in Vegas, like any travel, which most of our travel recently has been east, because again, traveling, I'm on the West Coast, so any travel east, you know, I'm moving into the future,
Yeah.
right? But that means I'm raring to go when everything's fucking closing down. It's like get to work going, here we go. I'm ready. Let's hop in it. Let's chop it up. What do you mean you're closed? What do you mean the only place I can get food is the 7-Eleven? What's going on? What I want to party, I want to happen, like when this last trip, flew out to Miami. I flew out on my birthday, and we landed in Miami about 9:30 ish or whatever. By the time we got to the Airbnb and ready to go out, it was 10:30. We'd asked our Airbnb host where some cool spots to go, and luckily there was a restaurant, this Latin restaurant, because we were staying in Little Havana, that was still open. And but she was like, "Oh man, you gotta try this Thai place that has really delicious, great food. It's wonderful. It's where everybody goes. Like, but we're hungry. We've been in the air for the past 5.5 hours and dealing with the travel all the way out. We're starving. Let's go grab some Thai food. That sounds amazing." And then we get there and it's closed.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what time they closed? And they closed at 10, I think. Right? Like, oh, we just missed it. Come on, damn it. And so let's walk down the street. And so we walked down the street, and luckily there was one place they were getting ready to close, but they were luckily they were still the live band had just ended. And you know how the nights are kind of wind up, and they started playing the music or whatever. But got in there, got some delicious food. They sang happy birthday. It was a wonderful time. Um, but yeah, I remember after that, going, this is different than my Vegas experience, because Vegas you can land at 10:30 and shit is just popping off.
Oh yeah.
That's when things are just starting to happen. And here we are, my man. I guess we're gonna head back to the Airbnb and call it a night, which wasn't a bad idea because we had to get up early in the morning. Uh, because I knew the wake up was gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
Like I didn't mentally prepare that. Okay, even though I'm up and ready to go and raring to go, I know come morning time, when it's time to get up and get moving, I am gonna be sluggish because of that time jump.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and It worked out okay. It worked out all right. I got the chance to get breakfast with a friend of mine. Shout out to Ashley. It was a lovely, lovely woman that I'm interested met on a previous cruise to Italy. Um, uh, we had a lovely breakfast at a place called the Pub in Little Havana, which is. I'll tell you something about Little Havana. They move at a much slower pace that I'm okay with because I'm from the West Coast and I'm from California, which also moves at a slower pace.
Oh yeah.
But I know that some folks have an issue with that. And I'm like, no, this is cool. We're just chilling. We'll get to the docks whenever we get to the port, not the docks. I'm not loading ships. We're going down by the docks. Give me my jumpsuit. Hey, get down by the docks. Get on the cruise. Yeah, man.
Yeah. I took I'm trying to think the last time I was there. We talked about this before when I went out there for the draft and we got good and loaded up on the plane.
Yeah.
I don't do that a ton, but when
I don't I don't yeah, I cannot drink on flights. One, I don't really drink too much, period. But I don't want to be in a hazy state as I'm trying to navigate baggage claim.
see, that was we got lucky because that was the weekend. And again, I think we talked about this an episode or two ago where, that 10-minute
Joe, we've
trip.
only had an episode or two ago.
Yeah.
It's only our third episode.
Sometimes
so either talk about it one or two.
Listen, somewhere deep in the back catalog of these 3 episodes. All right. I got a 50-50 chance. You've got a 50-50 chance of this story being in episode 1 or episode 2. But, normally, yeah, I don't want to be blitzed when I get somewhere. But I'll tell you, with the 2 hours it took us to get the whole 20 minutes from the airport to the Flamingo, I was glad that we were already tuned up and just adding to the story because it was needed at that juncture. But again, that's all a matter of who I'm traveling with for that weekend. Even though it was a work related weekend, I had a buddy of mine from undergrad who's actually the guy that sold all his shit from Pittsburgh and traveled around the world and did
who we got to have as a guest on the show, right?
Did sort of a digital nomad thing himself from I want to say it was 2016 to 2018, 2015 to 2018. I don't know. We'll get him on and he'll tell the story at some point in time. But yeah, normally when I'm with him, we'll get good and tuned up. I've got some other friends that we go to Vegas 1 or 2 times a year. They run a restaurant out here. They always like to get started in the airport. They're Eagles fans, so we were out there last year for the Eagles Raiders game in your new brand new stadium there. That was a fun time. Yeah.
Yeah, in the black Roomba. Now, what was this convention? The Danny McBride? That wasn't Danny McBride, but
Jeff McBride. Yeah,
Jeff McBride. Yes.
Yeah. So anybody who's connected to the magic world, it's tough to not know who Jeff McBride is.
I've heard the name before. I'm familiar. Again, I know so many magicians.
I mean, he's a bit of a legend himself. He runs out of his house in Vegas, and he's not too far, 10 minutes from the Strip or something like that. He runs a magic and mystery school out of his house, and it's a super cool setup. He's got a lot of great people that are involved in the teaching, and it's not, sometimes you go to these things and there are magic camps and other things like that where you just kind of go into sessions and learn tricks, and that's about it. This is really a lot more about, building a performance and a presentation. And yeah, we learned some tricks here and there scattered throughout the week, but I'll tell you, in all the things that I've experienced, that masterclass is by and large the for anybody who's looking for, to kind of elevate their game as a performer or a scholar in magic. That is the place to go. Best bang for the buck. I've spent similar money going to retreats and conventions and things of that nature, which are valuable themselves, but at least for where I am in my career, trying to elevate and get to a next, a better level performance wise, no better resource and no better value for the money because it's week long. It's 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday or whatever. I don't remember off the top of my head when I was out there, but you're there with obviously a room full of like-minded people. They might be at different stages in their career, and they certainly were.
Hmm.
There were people that had been doing magic for as little as 6 months, and then there were seasoned performers that are basically headlining shows like Absinthe that are in there trying to improve where they are, and everywhere in between. So it was a super cool experience. I'm actually going back out there the next time I'm out because I ended up with some moving stuff. I won't be in Vegas around the time that this episode drops. I was potentially toying with the idea of coming out for a gig in a kind of a magic variety show, but that's going to be a monthly thing. So I'll end up hitting another one of those in the future. But yeah, they're doing a mentalism specific weekend, so it's not week long. That's sold out because I've had some people that have found out that I was doing that and asked me about it, and I'm like, well, you can go to Magic and Mystery School and email them about getting on the wait list, but it has been sold out for a while.
Right.
But yeah, and when I do stuff like that now, especially for just like it's a 3-day session, so I'll come out I'm actually going to come out 2 days earlier. So I'm coming out the Wednesday that week. And it starts on Friday. So that'll let me get adjusted, acclimated, catch up with you, maybe hop into the churn for the ICS guys and see them record. I don't know what time they do that, but I know they do it
Yeah.
on one of them on Wednesdays. And then I'm there till Monday. So I got an extra day on the tail end too, just so that I can.
They have been varying their recording days just because Matt's touring a lot,
Yeah.
and the schedule. I was just trying to get in to discuss the move as well, because of the they mentioned it on the podcast. I said I'd be happy to come in, but if they record during the week, I got to take the day off.
Yeah.
So I said I need a few days advance notice so that I can put in the PTO for it because stupid job. Uh, which I which I have taken to calling my job the complaints department. Uh, in the way that two characters and a clown. Shout out to two characters and a clown, by the way. Um, call their job the chicken packing plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call my job the complaints department. That's where I work. Speaking of job, that's a great segue. Look at this. Look at us go with this
Yeah.
podcasting. We got a message.
Yeah, we did. Yep. Yep.
We got well, sort of. We somebody popped on Twitter, shouting out a question for you specifically, and it kind of also ties in that I wanted to get into some of your background and what you do and who is the almost psychic, and dive into this and chop it up so we give the people an idea of who we are.
Yeah.
And folks, a couple of episodes know who Big Sexy is, and came up to that. And I don't know if I've discussed the origin of the name on the podcast yet. This is what I learned happened in podcasting. You will have maybe have discussed something in another episode, but who the hell remembers that shit?
Or whether or not it's an episode of this podcast, because I know that you've
Right.
you've been on Ice Cream Social, you've been on the Side Hustle. Where else have you
Right.
been that I probably don't even
That's
know
it.
about? Yeah.
I've done a few episodes with the Ice Cream Social and one with the Side Hustle. So right. I'm sure I have expressed this story on the airwaves. Just where, who knows? And on my own podcast, maybe, maybe not. But I'm pretty sure it'll happen again. So if you don't know it, write in, and then I'll make sure to chop it up and we'll save it for the podcast. But this one comes from Joshua Tarr. Do you know who that is? Do you know who
Yeah.
Josh Tarr? So he hit you up at UA Tar on the Twitters. He wants to know what are the similarities and differences between a magician and a lawyer?
Yeah, so Josh was an attorney as well. He's actually also in Maryland, although I would imagine geographically he's probably maybe not as far away as you can get from me geographically in Maryland, but probably like the second furthest point. I am in the all the way in the upper right hand corner, the northeast corner of Maryland, and he's down in southern Maryland somewhere. I think the only point, if you were to draw a direct line that's further, would be going all the way out to western Maryland, which is basically West Virginia, parts of that. But yeah, he's a litigating attorney. He actually, I'm fairly certain that, and I don't remember which night it was, but when we had Matt performing in Elkton, which is my hometown, about a year ago, November, he was one of the scoops that came and checked out that show and, became introduced to me largely through that, I think, because we met afterwards and I had opened for Matt's show and everything like that. So he had reached out to me. And I'll tell you, I'm glad that you are bringing this back up, because the answer that I probably gave you via email has evolved since then, because I think that was shortly after, that was maybe December, January, something like that, not too long after Matt's performance and my performance there. And that was, I mean, it was a weird time because we were just kind of coming out of things being largely locked down out of COVID. So performances were not, they were brand new to me at that point in time. And litigating is something that I hadn't really done live and in court in quite some time because of everything being shut down through COVID. So, I mean, I will tell you that there are more and more similarities the deeper into, or let's just say, skills that I can cross over between one and the other, the deeper I get into the realm of magic and mentalism, and just taking things that are effectively double meanings or twisting the perception of something that is said in a presentation, for example, to a jury. Like, we had this jury trial, which I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast or if we just talked about it, but we had a really nice result in a jury trial my office had back in September. And one of the specific things that I remember, that we kind of use, that really the mindset of it came from some of just the structuring of language within magic routines and mind reading routines. And it's not about what you say, but a lot of times how you say it. But we had, and this is all public record, so I can kind of put this out there without having to blow up anybody or breach any sort of confidentiality. But in closing, we were asking the jury to award for pain and suffering for our client. Among other things, we had arbitrarily put together calculations for some of the fractures that our client had experienced. She had a wrist fracture, an elbow fracture, and then 6 rib fractures. And we had thrown together numbers that assigned basically an added value. This is above and beyond medical bills, because the medical bills were what they were. They were admitted into evidence for the jury to consider. But we said, look, she you should award her at least 10 grand a piece for the arm fractures, at least 15 a piece for the rib fractures, and and a whole myriad of other stuff that was piled on to the calculation that we were throwing at this jury. When the defense attorney made his closing argument, there were a number of things that he either refuted or assigned his own value to, but he chose or forgot to even address the value that we put on those fractures specifically. And in these cases, the plaintiff goes first, the defense attorney has a chance to, they do theirs, and then the plaintiff gets one last crack at it and a rebuttal. So in that rebuttal, we went through and kind of bracketed out verdicts and said, listen, what we've asked for, but let's break down what defense counsel is telling you to award our client. He thinks that these meds are not related, but admits that these are. So you've got to award at least this for the medical bills, which was basically word for word what he had said. And then this, and then this. And the one thing that he did not refute from our calculations are the value of the fractures. So he hasn't denied the fact that or done anything to dissuade you from each of the arm fractures being worth 10 grand, each of the rib fractures being worth 15. So we calculated out and did that math and ultimately used that language and kind of that dual meaning of the language to bracket a verdict that the jury would give us, where the lowest that they could go, and we were to some extent twisting his words and reframing defense counsel's words, but putting it out there that, hey, by his math, the lowest verdict that you can give us is $132,000. And then, and then reminded them of where we were on ours from there. And they came to a nice number. And for us, bracketing it that way to kind of do a little bit of inside baseball on this particular case, there was an insurance policy limit that was going to cap what the damages were anyway. And those damages were capped at 100 grand. So for us to be able to put the bottom bracket based on the higher than the cap, I don't want to say that it was a no lose situation, because I'm sitting here in the history seat as the winner who gets to tell the story from my perspective.
Yes.
Because I mean, we got almost a $600,000 verdict in this thing. So, for us, anything over 100 was an actual win. From the moral perspective, we needed that verdict to be over 250 for us to really feel like it was a win-win. So getting 600 grand was great. But yeah, I mean, taking that language and using kind of those skills and to reframe other people's language, or to be very selective in the language that we've chosen in that instance, is very, very much, analogous to a technique that I regularly will use on stage or kind of in the mindset. And they're not, you're not going to see that stuff necessarily directly, because one of the beautiful things, in my opinion, about presentations of any type, whether you are, doing just a regular stage acting show, or whether you're in a band, or whether it's a magic performance or a mind reading performance, is that you're pretty much in a seat where you're the only one that knows the script. You're the only one that knows what's supposed to come next. Or like in the magic world, where sometimes, and I don't want to give away too much here, but sometimes there are routines that we structure that almost have a choose your own adventure outcome to them.
Yeah, now, but what I want to know is
you don't know about all the other adventures. You know what I mean? You only know about the adventure that you've chosen.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
now, what's the performance that's going to get the performer the $600,000 out of a magic audience, the same way you're able to get that out of a jury? So that's what I got to figure out is how do we go
how to
on
reverse
stage
that exactly,
and how to get that same outcome in a different format. Okay, I was able to get it over here. I guess we got to break somebody's bones.
I've got a routine that I'm working on that involves staple guns. It's not going to break any bones, but my hope is that it's compelling once we get it up and running. I think I'm going to be working that into a couple of performances here and there to test it out relatively soon. One of the things I'm looking for are outlets, preferably that are close, that will effectively allow me to try stuff out. I thought I had one the other night. I was asked last minute. I had done a charity event for local Mason Lodge, where they had a performer in, and I volunteered myself to open for that performer and did some stuff. They had reached out to me about emceeing a charity poker tournament that they were putting on. And I was like, well, there's no better honor than basically performing in one fashion for somebody and being asked back to perform again. So I made some arrangements in my schedule, because I was asked to do it basically last minute. Like, it was a Friday thing. I was asked on Thursday. So shifted a few
girlfriends that were like that.
Yeah. So, which is fine by me, because I didn't have much to shift, just a few things, shifted those things, made it happen. I thought that maybe it was going to be a bigger thing where I was just kind of jawing around, but really I was just helping them organize the thing and make it run smoothly. But I had loaded up my car with some things that, I was like, well, what better thing to test some stuff out than having an audience that is not expecting me to do this thing. Therefore, me experimenting with something and saying, hey, can I show you guys something that I'm working on? The expectation isn't necessarily that this is going to be a polished routine, that this is, to be very almost like an open mic type of situation. This is the
Are
thing
there
that
open mics for magicians?
I think really you gotta have nut up and find open mics for at comedy clubs and say, hey, can I come and do a piece here? Like the closest thing that I've gotten to that is being invited to participate in variety shows. So there, I mean, I've been a performer doing a 8 to 10 minute hunk in the midst of, acrobatic stuff, burlesque stuff,
Right.
another magician, weird dance pieces, stuff like that are just, it's a bunch of different moving pieces. I've done a couple of those. Like I said, I got invited to do, and my hope is that this continues to be a monthly thing so that come December or January I can go and be part of it. What's going to be kind of a magic variety show that's happening on the third Thursday of every month out there somewhere. I'll have to get the information.
Out this way in the beautiful Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, I should get that and plug it because it'll be happening by the time this airs. In fact, this episode's going to air probably the 19th. So the first iteration of this Magic Variety Show is going to be tomorrow from the perspective of listening to this, although it's a good month from now from us recording this. And we, as we get this thing moving, just kind of as a heads up for everybody, we will be much closer in time to recording and then dropping
Recording
it.
and dropping. Yeah.
We're just trying to get a head start on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joshua, thanks for the question. Keep them coming, whether they be through Twitter or the little fun little voice message thing that we have.
Have there been any other messages out of the Anchor?
No, not on that yet. But again, I don't know that anybody out there knows that it exists other than you and me.
That's true, because we've only been really asking on the tweets and the what have you. So by the time you hear this, this will grow as this grows. Obviously, I don't know what I'm saying because again, it's still morning. But that website is anchor.fm/where is big sexy. That'll take you directly to the site. You can also go to bigsexynomad.com.
That's right.
Which will take you there as well. That's probably go there. That's probably the easiest one to remember, because if you're looking at it on the interwebs, we're Big Sexy Nomad everywhere. So we will drop it there.
Oh, I'm trying to find this place.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: has it gone the other way? Have you learned anything from doing magic that you have integrated into litigation?
I mean, I'd say that framing to some extent was probably the best example. Of kind of twisting language in a way that really, not to say that I wouldn't have probably put that together anyway, but that's definitely a technique that is strongly used. I mean, you're not necessarily framing and twisting other people's language, but you are using selective language to set up that kind of bracketing of a situation. And it's
but that
just
does sound like that does sound like a technique that is usable in both sides. But I'm wondering, is there something that you were not specifically not doing before in your law work, that when you started doing the magic stuff, you went, oh, if I do this over here, that I learned over here that will effectively, change things or be better for me, and vice versa. Well, see, you were a lawyer first, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I'm assuming that any law work, that any techniques you had doing litigation naturally would have bled over to being a magician, like those or a mentalist, right? Those techniques that you learn uh, blend over. You're like, oh, okay, I can manipulate this and this and this and this. But what I want to know is if there's anything that when you started doing the almost psychic, you went, oh, I didn't even think about that for this, and it works over here.
I mean, again, outside of like selective language selection, and again, a lot of with what we do specifically with jury trials and asking, we're asking people to give us money or to give our client money. So the ability to use language to frame things in a certain way to make things that from one perspective are very, very big, but to make them look small, or to make small things look very, very big, the ability to say, I mean, if I were to say, hey, give my client $2 million, right? That's a big number. And that's a big ask. There's a lot behind that as to why you would give my client $2 million. But if I were to re-select this story and break it down to the point where, hey, we're going to talk about what a day of anybody's life is worth. All right. We're going to break it down to the day. And, my client dealt with this situation for, this period of time. And now I'm going to try to anchor some value to a day. Or maybe I've got a client that's got a permanent injury, so they're going to deal with this for the rest of their life, and their life expectancy is another 30 years of not being able to do this, that, or the other. Some of those things may be a favorite activity. Like if I told you, what is your favorite activity?
My favorite activity,
Yeah,
other
recreationally.
than that's a good question. I absolutely love reading and writing poetry. Um, uh, uh, Swimming. I enjoy that. I enjoy swimming. I enjoy watching movies and watching television. I realize all my favorite activities involve me lounging.
What
Yeah,
about what
so I
about
guess if
what about karaoke?
karaoke is another favorite activity, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let's say that and I'll use this because this is explainable, and we don't need to really visualize anything, but let's say that you suffered some sort of an injury, and it was an injury that had to do with either your throat or your voice or something, and now as a result of this, we've taken karaoke away from you, and for the rest of your life, presumably. And if you were to say, hey, Big Sexy's easily got 30 years, if it weren't for this situation, of karaoke ahead of him, what is karaoke worth to you? Is it worth $50, $100? What would you pay? So now I'm taking a very small number, but I'm going to say, look, this is something that he could do any day of the week. So I'm going to take that 50 or that 100, I'm going to multiply it by the 365, and then I'm going to multiply it by the 30 years of his life expectancy. So now, 30 years times 365, we're at 10, almost 11,000 right there. So to multiply that by 100, we're over $1 million right there, just in taking away karaoke from you at $100 a day.
Mm.
So to take something that ask might be very big, but if I can shrink it down and change the perspective for you, that now I'm only asking you to give my guy $100. Sure, it's $100 every day that he can't do karaoke for the rest of his life, but it's such an important thing. Now you've
Right.
shifted the perspective. My ask is nothing. What's $100? Almost everybody on that jury's probably got $100 sitting in their pocket right now. So the ability to now paint that picture and reframe that so that getting them to be like, oh, yeah, in fact, I think it's worth more than 200 or $100. Let's give them $200 a day. Now you've gotten the jury without asking to give an even larger verdict, than you asked for.
Well, look at you with your selective talking and everything. Yes, I hope that works out for you. Well, we're gonna stop it right there. We're gonna close up shop right now.
Yeah.
Pull a cap on it. So let's do the outros and things, and eventually, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some kind of official outro. We say what happened organically, but in the meantime, we'll be just going, okay, we gotta stop now. Bye. No. As I said, be sure to follow us on all the social medias. At bigsexynomad. Pretty much everywhere we are. I know we have a Twitter, Instagram, and I'm setting up a TikTok, because apparently that's what you got to also set up a TikTok. I have no idea what we're going to put on the TikTok.
Yeah, I've never used TikTok before.
Man, maybe some of these videos, what have you. You can also go to bigsexynomad.com. Leave us a message. Say hi. I'm gonna reach out to some folks. Hopefully, not in the not too distant future, we'll be able to have some guests and some folks on to talk about some other stuff. Definitely got it. If you know any worldwide travelers, if you know any people who have done the expat thing, we definitely want to speak with them and talk to them about their experiences. That's a part of this journey, is to hear how other people have done it. Also guiding me as I start this. Next episode, I think we'll talk about things that we're already planning to do. I have to tell you about some of the cruise lines we're looking at, some of the ideas that the wife has had.
Sweet.
About how we're going to leave here and get to where we're going. So we'll peruse those options. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I'm Big Sexy.
I am the Almost Psychic.
And this has been Big Sexy Digital Nomad.
Thanks
Peace.
for stopping by.